Today, in Spiritual Matters Thursday, we are going to talk about part 2 of our spiritual summer series. And we're talking about the body, your body as a gateway to your spiritual maturity. And I have a quote for you. The spiritual life does not remove us from the world, but it leads us deeper into it, by Henry J.M. Nguyen. This is your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Atlanta. Good morning, East Coast. Good morning, West Coast. Everybody, North Coast. North Coast? Do we say North Coast? South Coast? No. North Pole, South Pole, everybody. Everybody in the Eastern Standard Time and everywhere else. Good morning and welcome to the Daily Huddle. Like I said, I'm your co-host. I'm your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando. And today we are continuing our spiritual summer series. We are delving into your body as a gateway to your spiritual maturity. Now, if you have spent any amount of time inside of Western culture, particularly the United States of America, the thought of your body as a spiritual anything sounds like an oxymoron. I know. We did that on purpose. So I want to talk about, what do you think I'm going to talk about? I want to talk about all of the assumptions that we make about that and how to move beyond that. But before we do that, in the spirit of your body as a gateway to spiritual maturity, we're going to ground. So let me see who we got here. Tara, how are you today?
Good morning. I am the way I say I am. And this morning, thanks to a COVID test last night, I'm taking it easy.
Oh, taking it easy.
Yeah, so kind of riding easy today. Glad to be here.
Glad that you are here as well. Stan, where are you and what are you grateful for?
I'm right here, Doctor. Right here in this place and time, the only place that I could be.
Mm-hmm. And what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for the Daily Huddle family, and I'm grateful to hear what the doc has to talk to us about today. I'm all ears.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're here too, Stan. Andrea, tell me how you are. Who are you going to hug today? What are we doing about hugs today?
I'm probably not going to be hugging too many people more virtually because of, I don't know, I still have something. Not COVID, so Tara, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, still recovering from something. So maybe a lot of virtual hugs.
Okay, let's start right here. Everybody give Andrea a hug. Pass it on to Tara as well. Tara, sending you lots of healing energy as well. I am so delighted that all of you are here. And when I was thinking about this particular theme of your body as a gateway to spiritual maturity, I thought, oh, okay, that's lovely, but you only have half an hour. So cliff note it, Monikah. And here's what I'll say. A lot of the human history, documented human history, has been spent in Black and Indigenous cultures of color, okay? Like 90% of our documented history has been spent in Black, and where that has been the dominant force. And moreover, the undocumented part of human history has been spent in matrilineal and matriarchal societies. And so one of the things that we know in the human species is that the feminine body is the one that creates life. And on a monthly basis, we spill blood in a way that has nothing to do with with violence, excuse me, with violence. It is the only way that the human body sheds blood that doesn't have anything to do with violence. And so one of the resources that I'm going to give you, write this down. You don't have to go look it up right now, but just write this down. Is I'm going to give you 2 lectures that you can just find for free on YouTube. One of them is called The Alphabet and the Goddess. The Alphabet and the Goddess. And it speaks about how, like I said, 90% of our history was spent in matrilineal and in Black and Indigenous cultures. And that once we began to move our languaging from symbols, such as the hieroglyphs that you find in the temples of Egypt, to a linear cuneiform alphabet that goes from, in certain cultures, from right to left, in other cultures from left to right, but it's very linear. Then we started to move to a patriarchal society. And, gestures broadly to the world. We all know how well that's going. So, and then the other resource that I'm going to give you is also by the same guy, and I'm going to spell the guy's name in a minute. So it's Alphabet and the Goddess, and then the other one is Sex, Time, and Power. Ooh, what a juicy title. Sex, Time, and Power. And the premise of that lecture is that the person that can actively forward your species, i.e. women, are the ones that have the most power in your species. And so what do you do when you feel powerless? You're going to have to find some way of creating society and creating the ways that we relate to one another to kind of balance the scales. And once again, gestures broadly, that's not really going very well. So let's talk about your body then, and how important it is to your spiritual maturity. Because I think a lot of times people have it like it's a mutually exclusive conversation. Like either you are in the material world and ignoring the spiritual, or you are in the spiritual world and you ignore, or it's not as important to be in the material. And I, as a biracial, bicultural, bicoastal, bi a lot of things, parallel kind of person, I say, nay, 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 my friends. No, we are actually living in both worlds at the same time. And you know how I know that? Because you can really, really love a person. Just check in with your own experience, right? That you can physically be somewhere. For example, I'm sitting at my desk right now in this chair, and mentally and emotionally, I can be somewhere else, right? How many of you have had that experience where you're like physically somewhere and then you're mentally or emotionally somewhere else, right? You've experienced that you can be in 2 places at the same time. Bump physics lessons. Bump it. You can contradict it even in your own consciousness. You can expand it or amplify it in your own consciousness. So I want you to think about an infant. Like when you're just born, all you haven't developed cognitive memory, you haven't developed linguistic skills, you haven't developed, you don't even know what to call whatever emotions you might feel. All you have is your body and the relationship to the physical world. And whoever gives you comfort and nourishment in your physical world, that's God for you. Enter mom, right? Mom is the first experience of God that we have ever had. At least, if not mom in the cultural sense, then certainly in the way of I was born out of this womb, right? So I want you to think about when you are being led to sleep, when you are being led for hunger, when you are being led for even the need for physical comfort. Like sometimes there's nothing wrong with the baby. They've been fed, they just had a nap, they just had their diaper changed, they just want to be held. That's it. Nothing more than that, right? And we sometimes minimize the need for physical touch that human beings have. There has been studies done where they have documented that your brain function is compromised to the degree that you don't have physical touch in your life. It gets in the way of relationships, of bonding, of understanding your space, like spatially, visually, in your physical space. These folks typically, depending on the culture, you might have a certain unspoken communication in your culture, for example, about physical space. There are some places, like for example, when you go to New York, it's nothing for you to be walking down the street and somebody bump into you. And it's not offensive. It's not that nobody's trying to come on to you. It's just physical space. New York is a very crowded space, so we just kind of maneuver. Whereas in Georgia, where I live, for example, if somebody bumps into you in the supermarket, it's like this big deal. It's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt you? Did I step on your toe? Oh, and it's like this 5-minute interaction because you dared to touch somebody's skin, right? And so what does that mean for us? In terms of your body as a gateway to spiritual maturity. Your body is the first place where you discover your place in the world. I use those words very deliberately. I repeated that word very deliberately. Your body is the first evidence that you have that you are separate from other living organisms in the world. For example, because I can see the webcam in front of me, I have an idea in my mind that I am separate and distinct from the webcam, from this mic, from the computer, etc. Certainly from another human being. But the one that looks most like me, i.e. a human being, has the eyes in the same place and shoulders in the same place, etc. Those are the folks that I develop the most deep relationships with, right? As opposed to inanimate objects. And one of the ways in which we use our body for spiritual maturity, wait for it, is sex. Go ahead, clutch your pearls. What? No, that can't be spiritual. What are you talking about? Stan goes, yes, sir. So let me tell you, and where's Shiva Ray? Is Shiva Ray here? I just saw her earlier because I know that she is an erotic embodiment coach, and Gio is just all over that. So I was hoping to engage her here. So somebody bring her back. Maybe she's on Facebook. So one of the things that you want to think about is one of the, well, let me preface this by saying, most people, when they, adults, okay, most adults, when they have had a significantly intimate, connected, and physically pleasing sexual experience, they talk about it very fondly and they wish that they could repeat it again. It's a source of deep pleasure and intimacy for the human heart, for human relationships, for the human soul, to say nothing of how pleasurable it is on the physical body level, right? And so a lot of times what ends up happening, because we live in an either or kind of world in consciousness, we think if it's this much physical pleasure, it can't be spiritually good for you too. It has to be one or the other, right? To the degree that it's physically pleasing, it's probably sinful. It's probably a distraction from my spiritual pursuits. And here at the Daily Huddle, let this be one of the ways, one of the places where you disabuse yourself of that notion. And you have seen, for example, in ancient cultures where sex is actually used as a ritual for manifestation and for healing. Now, it requires a certain level of maturity and preparation. Just like even if it was just a physical pursuit and you're just trying to get it on with your wife or with your husband, at the end of the day, it's like, hurry up, we gotta do this because the kids might hear us. You still have some preparation even when it's at that level. Imagine when it's about spiritual transformation. right? And I was joking with Sorrel earlier because I was telling him one of the common dances that we have seen popularized, thank you, TikTok, is twerking. Twerking. And for those of you who may not know, Gio, I'm looking at you. For those of you who may not, I'm not going to demonstrate. Don't try to be slick. But for those of you who don't know, twerking is when you put your, sounds like, oh, shucks. When you put your hands, for example, on your knees and you bend down and you stick your butt out and then you shake your booty, right? In a very suggestive kind of manner. All right. Now, let me tell you where that emanates from, okay? In most African cultures, the drum, right, the instrument of the drum was first discovered and popularized in the continent of Africa. Now, I don't know what nation, what tribe, et cetera. I just know that it emanates, like 99% of things in this planet emanates from Africa. The drum was meant to imitate the heartbeat of Gaia, of the planet Earth. And so when we move our booties, in accordance to the drum, to the beat of the drum, what you are actually doing energetically in your body is you're moving Kundalini energy from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra. So you're wanting to wake up your physical energy for spiritual purposes. We've known this instinctively in human consciousness since the beginning of time. It's only been when human beings have tried to erase or mistranslate each other's cultures that then things get misinterpreted and lost in translation that way. So dance, our relationship to food, our relationship to sex, our relationship to personal space, and all the ways in which you exist as a physical being, your body is a gateway to your spiritual mastery. That is why when you, in ancient civilizations, not only do they use food as part of ancient rites and rituals, but also abstaining from food has been a spiritual exercise. Abstaining from sex has been a spiritual exercise for a certain period of time. Now, why does that matter? Because there have been times, as you may be familiar with, where human beings go overboard. Now, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying human beings in general have had a history of going overboard on certain things. And so abstaining from it allows you to see, what are you using that exaggeration or that addiction or that distraction to cover up? When you fast from food or abstain from water even long enough, you'll notice, wow, I use food to cover up my loneliness. I use food to not have to deal with my anger. I particularly crunchy foods when I'm angry, or I particularly eat, sweet foods when I feel bitter or when I feel lonely or when I need connection, et cetera, et cetera. And so the physical world and our relationship to it, how we nourish it and take care of it and relate with it, gives us a lot of clues as to where we are in the physical and the spiritual world and what we can do to mature in it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I'm looking at all your faces. See, Stan thought that this was going to be like, a lascivious conversation. It's way deeper than that, way deeper than that. So I want to give you a challenge before I open it up for questions and discussions. I want to, of course, as always, I always want to engage in discussion with you. I want to give you a challenge. The next time that you can do it as soon as we finish here. In fact, you can do it while we are here. I want you to notice where your right hand is, where your left hand is. How are your shoulders? Are you holding any tension on your shoulders? When you look at somebody in a conversation, how long do you hold eye contact for before you feel uncomfortable and look away? With your voice, because your voice is also part of your physical world, right? With your voice, notice how hard do you laugh when something is funny, or do you stifle your laugh? I just had a throw your head back, ka, 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 ka kind of laugh earlier today, thanks to Sorrel once again. So I want you to just notice, how constricted in your body are you, or how expansive in your body are you? With your gestures, with your personal space, with your eye contact, with how loud or how strong or how confident your voice may be, with your relationship to your food. What are you going to eat today? Who are you going to, that's why we ask also, like, who are you going to hug today? Like, who are you going to break personal space for the sake of intimacy with? Right? And so when you start to notice yourself as a physical entity moving around in the world, you can begin to see where ancient scriptures have said that you must learn how to be in the world and not of it. More than one holy scripture says that. And the teaching of that saying is to integrate who you are as a physical, sexual, spatial, visual human being with all of the spiritual lessons that you yourself had decided that you're going to come here and learn and master and teach and express. So I'm going to open it up and see what questions and commentary we have so that we can explore this even further. Stan, are you itching to say something?
Actually, no. I wasn't. I was just listening and enjoying just hearing you speak on the topic. And I just want to learn more about it. So what I'd like to find out from you, what was the name of that second book? I wrote down the first one about alphabet.
And the goddess.
But the second one
is Sex, Time, and Power. And if I didn't tell you who it's by, it's Leonard Shlain. Somebody put it in the chat. It's spelled S as in Sam, C as in Charles, H as in House, L-A-I-N.
Okay.
Shlain.
Sex,
Leonard
Love, and
Shlain.
Power. Sex, Love, and Power by
Sex, Time, and Power.
Sex, Time, and Power by Leonard Shlain. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Sorrel, what you got?
Dr. Ogando, say a little more about the process of awakening the body to create a spiritual space or connection. Twerking, for example,
Right.
how it's used
Yes.
to create that.
Yes. Yeah, you can use your body in many different ways. You can use it with the breath. For example, just now, you can take a deep, let's all do it together. We can take a deep breath and you hold it at the top and release it slow. You do that 10 times, you can create a different kind of consciousness. You can do that when you're angry. You can do it when you're impatient, right? You can save a life today just by breathing. You're like, oh, Lord, let me not kill this person. And you take a breath and you do it 10 times and you save the life. How many of us have had that experience? Like, okay, see, I didn't have to kill nobody today. It's a good day. Like Ice Cube said in his song. So breath is one way to use your body for spiritual awakening and connection. Another, of course, just like we talked about dancing and sex and food and space and everything else, just being present, literally being present to the present. Like I asked you to see where are your shoulders? Where are you holding your right hand? You probably hadn't thought of your right hand until I mentioned it, right? And yet it's been with you all this time, right? I think. So when you get present to your physical body, then you can eliminate, for example, anxiety. You can eliminate social fear. You can, and I mean social fear as opposed to physical fear, because there have been times when you've been in physical danger, but 99% of your existence, you're typically not in any physical danger. You're in a social, perceived danger. And when you get back to your physical body, you realize I'm not in danger at all. This is just a function of my own thinking. Make sense what I'm saying? So you can actually use your body to get yourself out of whatever mental or emotional space you may be in. Sometimes professional speakers do this as well. When you're nervous, when you're about to go on stage, you're like, oh my God, are they going to like me? Is this going to go well? Da, da, da. And you do physical exercises to move yourself from one state of mind or one emotional state to another. You can hold your feet shoulder length apart and put your hands on your hips like it's a power stand. All of a sudden, you can be wimpy when you're holding your body that way. You're like, okay, come on, let's bring it, right? So you can actually change your emotional state by changing your physiology. Rose, taking a walk. Yeah, absolutely. You can move some energy around. That's the whole point of dancing and twerking, that you can move energy around in your body, waking up your Kundalini energy. Also, here's a trivia piece that maybe you didn't know. The reason why when you run long enough, you get a runner's high. I don't know if you've ever heard of the runner's high. is because of the friction that you're having in your pelvis area, which is the same function of twerking. You're having friction in your pelvis area because you're running. And then that energy moves up your spine and reaches your brain, and you get epinephrine and the runner's high. So lesson of the day, twerk, people. You can twerk in private, you can run long enough. If you run long enough, if you can physically, physiologically, if you can run, do it, because it's a great way to elevate your energy. Maria has had her hand up for quite some time. What's going on, Maria?
Greetings and good morning. I was watching on Facebook and deleted that and chose to come on so that I can share how appreciative I am of you, Dr. Monikah, for what you're sharing. So really, thank you, and the universe thanks you. Yeah. And I'd like to add 2 books that I highly recommend for integrating sexuality and spirituality as one. One of the books is called The Art of Sexual Ecstasy. And the second book is The Art of Sexual Magic. Ooh. And they're both written by Margot Anand. And when you were talking about manifestation, it reminded me of really how powerful we are and how we can declare and manifest and dedicate our orgasms to manifesting.
Yes.
And on my birthday every year, I have friends that call me and tell me about the multiple orgasms that they have dedicated to me so that all my wishes and dreams come true. And they come true.
What a lovely birthday gift.
Like the highest of the high. Yes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got it going on in life. I've got friends that do that for me, and I do it for them and others, including strangers. So I just want to add that into the mix. And again, say thank you, and the universe thanks you.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you for presencing that. We can certainly use our peak physical energies, including sexual, such as orgasms, because it can be peak physical energy and not have anything to do with sex too. It can also be a peak physical energy in terms of like your frustration or your fear. Well, these are emotional energies, but you can move them physically. So you can actually have dedicate, for example, the peak of your sexual experience, such as an orgasm, or you can dedicate the peak of your gastrointestinal experience, such as eating some really good food. I don't know if you have, this is some really good food, dance, but you ought to get one. Anybody that has ever broken bread with me, that has ever taken me to lunch or dinner, whatever, you know that I have, this is some good food dance. When I first take that bite, it's like, oh, this is good. So move that energy through your body so that you can express gratitude, right? That's a way to say grace, to use your body to say, thank you, God, for this food. So thank you for presencing that, Maria. That was awesome.
You're welcome. And I want you to know that Elisheva is driving and listening, and she's going to listen later.
Hi, Elisheva. That's awesome. I'm actually going to go to a sacral chakra activation dance workshop this weekend here in Atlanta. So if y'all want to come along, you're free to send me an email. I'll let you know where I'm going to be. Who else has a question or a comment? No? I've stunned you into silence? Gio has a question. Okay, Gio, what's up?
Not quite a question, a comment, or I don't know. I'm just going to say something.
Yep.
There is this, I am clear that, and I always say this in a private manner, in an intimate way. I don't really say it out whether I'm leading in a conversation or in a public manner, but I'm going to say it since the conversation is body access to spirituality.
Yeah.
So in an intimate relationship, I've always said that God's gift to humanity is sexual intimacy. And then I always say, boy, do we have a way to destroy that gift, you know, and so I have developed this kind of interesting relationship between my body as access to spirituality in some kind of a resentful way towards humanity. And so and so I kind of resent men, the male
Anatomy?
No, not anatomy, the male leadership of energy, the male themselves,
Okay.
for the destruction of our
Got it.
consciousness and biology and the earth and the whole thing. And so and yet I am a man, so there is this like, well, my access to all of it is still me.
Yes.
And so the last thought I want to share, I'm not quite looking for conclusion, I'm just kind of sharing with you, is that having said all of that, it's like I rather just not look at the body as access to spirituality for some reason, but rather my intellectual challenges and rigorous thinking as access to spirituality. Like there's this quote, I think it's from Albert Einstein, I think, that says, spare me all the details, I want to think like how God thinks. And to me, that's access to spirituality. That, like, I want to see how God thinks. I want to see the data from nature. I want to study nature itself. Not, I want to see how God thinks. I want to study how God thinks, not how human beings think.
Sure.
Anyway, so this is the soup of my conversation today.
Well, but here's what's interesting and magical about what you're saying, Gio, and that is that I think we're saying the same thing. Because if you want to explore how God thinks, explore nature and explore your physical universe. You can see that there are cycles to nature, right? You can see that that just because there is desolation, such as winter, where it's barren, doesn't mean that there's something wrong. And so there's a certain sense of eternal hope and eternal wisdom and being in the present moment that allows you to deal with barrenness or emptiness in a way that doesn't feel despair. And you can deal with fullness in a way that doesn't feel ostentatious or like you're taking away from anything else. When a lion kills a zebra or any kind of animal in the jungle to eat, it doesn't kill all the prey. It kills one so that it can eat. And so it teaches you about greed and about accumulation in our society, right? So there's a lot that we can learn in the physical universe about how to navigate our spiritual world and our spiritual maturity. So I'm thanking you for presencing that. And we are over time. So I want to thank everybody for being here and for being willing to be in the question of how can I use my physical universe and my physical body as a gateway to my spiritual maturity. Of course, you know what I'm going to say to you. Our 7 core, well, 8. Okay, I'm declaring that it's 8. I'm going to stop asking for permission about that. And that's just the way it's going to be. So love generously. Sleep your at least 7 hours a day, eat more plant-based, give of yourself, of your heart, of your time, of your treasure, of your talent, of your patience, give of your physical space, allow yourself eye contact, allow yourself joy. And what else? Sorrel, you have to help me complete it. There's 3 more. I know I said 5, but there's actually 3 more left.
Did you say stress less?
Stress less, of course, yes.
Sleep?
Yep, I said sleep.
Okay, well.
I did it, right? I did it.
Shake what their mama gave them.
Oh, yes. And then, of course, number 8, and some would argue. I'm not saying me, I'm just saying some would argue. The most important one, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Check your assumptions. Always check your assumptions so that you can be in a place of presence and a place of discovery. We love you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Doc.
Bye.
Awesome.